Hi. As you can see, I know nothing about fashion. Like, I always dress like this. I think I've been wearing these pants for like 2 weeks. I know absolutely nothing about fashion. But since I've been trying to draw clothes and try to draw clothes for men and clothes for girls and try to see how clothes move, I thought that it would be a nice step if I, instead of trying to use a lot of reference, just try to find a way to design the clothes that I'm going to put into my characters. I gave it my best shot and here it is. My name is Javi and I can draw, and these are the basics of fashion design. I found a lot of tutorials and a lot of texts, and they're all pretty good. I grouped them and put them all together, and if you want to read them, you can just go to the link that is going to be below. They're pretty great and I recommend them. But if you don't want to read them all, I can actually sum them up. And it's pretty easy. The two most important things to consider when drawing and trying to design fashion are the two things: the principles and the tools. The principles are the rules of design, and they are the following: balance, rhythm and movement, emphasis, proportion, and harmony and unity. The tools are the things that you're going to use to achieve these principles, and they are lines, shapes, texture, color, value, and silhouettes. Once I knew this, there was only one thing that I could do, and that was grab the principles, grab the tools, and try to put them together and see how they work. It wasn't easy, but here's what I got. So instead of trying to waste everyone's time and draw on the screen, I did a lot of drawings, because what I wanted to do was separate each and every one of the principles and try to see which of the tools were the ones that were going to work better with each of the principles. So I want to show you. Well, let's go to the screen. So here what we have is just some small model just standing there in contrapposto, just there naked, and that is the model I'm going to use to draw all the clothes. I already drew some of the clothes and it's going to be here, and the first principle that I want to work with is balance and proportion, because they're two separate principles, but I think that they work in the same way. And the tools that work with balance and proportion are the lines and the relation between the shapes. Now, the easiest way to do this, as I started, was to think about, well, the best way to get balance is to be symmetrical. So I tried to be symmetrical. I started using these diagonal lines to get all this. Why is this not loading? There it is. And then for a bit of contrast, I used this, and that's fairly easy. And then I said, like, well, but what about that's with lines, but what about shape relations? So I started doing this thing. And I said, like, well, does it work without something as equally as big, or as like, if there's going to be this thing on top, is there's going to be something like that on the bottom? Does it need it or not? And this is fairly ridiculous, and I was exaggerating, but you can tell that without anything, it looks like so heavy on the top. It doesn't look balanced at all. So that's what it means with shape relations, because even though this is super sketchy, you can see that there is a relation between these two shapes, like this bell here and this big skirt here, and this repetition, and you can work with that. So for lines, this is an example for lines that I could think of, and this is an example for a shape, in order to get some harmony and get some balance. No, not harmony. Harmony comes later. I'm referring about balance, and I'm referring about proportion. Now, the second one is rhythm, and rhythm is achieved through repetition. And this is also shape repetition or line repetition, and these two really quick examples are, well, very easy ways. Because as you can see, since I'm a beginner at this, I didn't work with like two different garments, but I just worked with one big dress and tried to work on top of it to see what was going on, to work with the shapes. And, well, repetition, and you can see that this is repetition, and there's this that starts getting smaller, and there's a contrast between, it's black, white, black, white, black, white, and it starts getting longer the more to the bottom you go. And in this particular case, it's kind of the same. I use these shapes here, and then I use them down here, and I started getting larger and larger and larger. in order to work some rhythm into the repetition, because rhythm doesn't mean that the shape has to be the same all the time, but it can go like stretching like these two, you know what I mean? And maybe it's just not growing in size like in these two examples, but maybe it's just a line that is just as thick all the time but starts distancing between each other. That's also another example of rhythm. The next one is going to be emphasis. And emphasis is like super easy, because the easiest way to achieve emphasis, as I could find, is through color. Because if you see here, you're working with this, and if you see this shape, the thing that most catches your eye is going to be this scarf that I did here. And if you're looking at this one, the thing that is going to catch your eye is going to be this one. But color is not the only way to achieve this emphasis. You can also do it by shape and by using lines, directing all the lines to whatever it is you want to put the emphasis on. So in this particular case, I was trying to work it with the belt. I said, like, because I was going to do something with the chest, but it's like, it's pretty easy to get all the lines to go to the center of the chest. So I thought, like, well, what about the belt? So I started doing something like really loose with texture, but I wanted all these lines from the cloth to go to the belt here, and you know, I don't know if I got it right, but well, you know, this is why I'm learning to get it right. But I think that it still works in its own way. And finally, this one is harmony. And the thing about harmony is that it is pretty abstract, because it is not something that you can just, you know, point, like for example with shape or with lines or whatever, because you have to use a combination between shapes and color palettes and texture. And it is, you know, in order to achieve harmony, you have to put a mixture between balance, a mixture between rhythm. It's a thing. So the only thing that I can think about doing is like maybe trying to get a better color combination here. So for harmony, I did this thing that looks like it is super simple, and I don't know if it is exactly what, you know, the text and everything I read meant for harmony, but I tried to establish this color palette. So I have this, like, the jacket is going to be the one with the stronger color, this one is going to be the one with dark color, and this one is going to be like fairly muted. The shirt is going to be fairly muted, but you know, I work with the shapes, because since this jacket is a bit loose and broadens the shoulder of my model just a bit, I decided that maybe the best thing was to also do a broad skirt to work with that. It adds also a little bit of weight, and harmony is unity. Harmony is a pretty abstract thing, because, well, if you think the most logical example will be like a pantsuit, or when people dress with just one color, and sure, that's harmony, that's unity, but what's the fun in that? That's not what I want to do. If I wanted to do, I wouldn't be doing these videos. But that's as far as I got. And it's silly because, like, you're watching this in a very, very short video, but I spent the last 3 hours trying to get this right. Like, I have other examples that I want to show you. Now, I don't really want to show them to you, but I have like this when I was trying to strike for balance, but it's all going to one side, it's all falling to the dark sleeve. And then I did this one to try to find some rhythm and some harmony in the color, but I don't know. And then I tried to do this one because I was trying to find if there were some defining lines in the human body that I should use as guideline. And even though they are, well, I didn't like to work with them, I'm going to be honest with you. And I don't know if I have some extra, like I have, well, these like shorts and the shirt, and then I have this thing. They're not very good, but still. But now that I know which principle goes with which tool, I think that it's going to be more easy to move from this point forward. Now, from the tools that you can use in order to like create a garment, I didn't use texture and I didn't use value. Well, I did use value in all of those black and white things, and I did use value in this harmony thing when you think about it, because I was thinking about darkening the skirt to give some prominence to the jacket and whatnot, and I didn't include texture because, you know what, I'm still not there, so I didn't want to mess it up. So sure, I had the basics at least a bit right, but what about something more casual? What about streetwear? The thing I wanted to know the most were the basics of drawing some simple but, you know, nice looking streetwear. I really wanted to get the most basic aspects of streetwear down, and I think I did pretty good. Check this out, here's what I got. So I've been sketching, okay, and as I started doing my sketches and as I did some extra research, these are the things that I started finding out. Now, if we look at these 3 sketches that I have here, well, I was just goofing around, you know. I wanted to try this thing because I was reading that the secret to streetwear is basically layering and color. That is the most important thing at all. About layering, the thing is that you have to go from thin fabrics to thicker fabrics. Like, you can be wearing the thick sweater and on top of it just a light jacket. You have to be wearing like something thicker for it to look good. And it should go from a small garments to bigger garments as you layer on top of it. And regarding color, well, is streetwear, you know, what I was looking at the rules of how to match your clothes and all that, it says that most of the colors in streetwear has to be like fairly muted, like not very saturated, not very bright. And maybe just one garment should be the brighter one, the one that is going to you know, catch all the attention. Like we've seen, you know, that the rule about emphasis, well, it's kind of that thing. I think that the rule to streetwear has to do more with like balance, harmony, and emphasis, using color as it. And here I have 3 things that I was just sketching, just trying to see what I could find, and I wasn't focusing so much on color, but I was focusing really on layering. So, you know, from this layer to this layer is like going bigger, and you know, I want to see like what about loose clothes, and then I went from this one like, you know, it's the same thing, it's like smaller, and then it's bigger, and then it's like small, larger, larger, it's the same thing, and I was trying just different looks to see what I could mix. But this was just me like, you know, doodling around, just sketching, see what I could find. I have a second batch of drawings that I just did, I'm going to show you right now. And in this series of sketches, I am focusing a lot more with playing around with color and also playing around with size, because this rule about going from smaller garments to larger garments on the rule for layering, I don't think that it actually applies in all of the cases, and that's what I was experimenting with. So I want to show you, well, let's go to the first one. We have the first one. You see that there is not a lot of layering because it is just like the tights here and the skirt, but I added also, I wanted to see what happened if I added something large like this coat, and now it has like this winter look, and it's all fairly muted, it works well. The thing that is more saturated is here, is this shirt here. And I really like the look, and it's fairly layered, and it looks like something that you know, someone that you might find in like autumn wearing this. It looks like it makes sense, right? So here I wanted to see, on the second one, I wanted to see what would happen if I actually went from, you know, you have the dress that is like this large, well, you know, like mid-sized dress, and what if I use something smaller? So I have here like this little jacket, and I think it actually works really nice, and I want to show you why, because one of the rules that I'm realizing when I'm trying to design like an outfit for a character is that, well, in the case of a girl, that is what I've been focusing on this week, the most important thing to like emphasize on is like trying to get this hourglass shaped out of a character. So in most of the cases, like if you're going to be using this black band here to try to get the waist to be a little bit smaller, then I can start just trying to emphasize on this hourglass shape. And by using this small jacket, I think it looks fairly good. And if you compare the colors, I know that the jacket is red, but actually the most emphasized color is going to be the yellow, is the most saturated one. And I really like how this one looks. Now, if we go to the third one, here are some like really loose pants and a black tank top, and I added just this tiny yellow shirt because I was playing with color and emphasis using color, so the shirt is going to be the thing that, you know, it pops out the most, and I like how it looks. And also because I want to show you, like, if we look at this girl, it's the same girl, but her waist would be defined around here, and in this case the waist would be defined around here, and in this case would be defined around here. And that is one of the rules that when we did the videos about how to draw clothes, not design them, I actually realized that the way to find the best harmony when you're drawing a girl's clothes is try to decide where the waistline is going to artificially be defined by the clothes that the girl is wearing. And you can see it here. It goes from a little lower to higher and higher here. So that is a good rule for when deciding the clothes. If you're going to design an outfit for a character, you just decide. You start by designing where the waist is going to be. I find that is like a really good rule. And here, finally, I have these two drawings. And what I wanted to play a little bit more with the whole rule for bigger to smaller and smaller to bigger. And I did for the first one, I added this shirt because it was just gray, black tights and just a really long gray shirt, so I added some color with the shirt, and I did some line pattern to give it more like height to the character, and I really like it. It is shorter than the shirt that she is wearing, and it's also it's fairly loose, it's fairly comfortable. It goes with the idea because it's like also, I don't know if... Well, I think that you can go from looser to tighter, right? Like, you can be having this really loose shirt and then have a tight jacket. I don't think that's a problem, is it? I don't know if I drew any jackets on this video. I don't think I did. And the second one is, like, I tried to do the complete opposite and just went for larger and a thicker fabric and a bigger garment like this. Well, I don't know what to call it, but it looks nice, doesn't it? And... well, if you look at the difference of length between the two, and how thicker this clothes is between these two, it really gives you a different feel for the character. So, what do you think? I know that there are some garments there and some outfits that are pretty awful, but still I think that I got the basic stuff. Like, the most important thing that I wanted and the rules, I got them, and that's what I cared about the most. Now I want to know what you care about the most. Why don't you leave me in the comments telling me what are the garments that you like drawing the most, or what are the ones that are the hardest to you. Maybe I can find some more resources and share them to you in the comments. That's something I always like to do, so just leave a comment. If you like this video, give it a like. If you want to see more videos like this, give it a subscribe. The button is like somewhere around here. And if you think that someone will find this useful, just share this video wherever you can. That's going to be it for this week. My name is Javi and I can draw, and I know that you can draw too. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next week. Bye!